they wouldn't be so keen
Sure.
on, but then again, no, I don't think anybody's going to sacrifice. Well, there might be some crazy people that are,
Yeah, don't put it past them.
yeah, that
Yeah.
is true. But I can't imagine someone going, well, this is pagan. No Christmas trees this year. Can't do
Right.
anything that when it's just a tree with lights on it. Like there's nothing inherently, you prescribe the evil to it. In itself, it's just a tree
It's
with lights on it.
right, but according to the old law, because remember, you have to remember at this time that even when Jesus was born, people were already adhering to Moses' law. They were already adhering to the Ten Commandments, and one of those Ten Commandments is, "Thou shalt not make before me any graven image." And then thou shalt not worship any other gods. So that idolatry was something very, very frowned upon, and frowned upon is a very generous term for that. That they killed people for creating these idols. As a matter of fact, when Moses came down in the Old Testament, he saw that they were all worshiping, the golden calf. Man, he was, well, pissed to say the least.
I can imagine. They used to do some, like, speaking of the idols, and there was one story, and I cannot for the life of me remember. I was sitting here trying to think about it, but there's one story of probably the most gruesome way to execute someone or torture someone, and they would create that golden bull and then put them inside the bull and
Right.
then light a fire up underneath it. I mean,
That
people
was
back then
Greek,
did some
wasn't it?
fucked up stuff.
Yeah, the guy that actually
I can't
created that
remember.
bull ended up dying in it because he wanted to
Yes, he
show
did.
how it worked. He got inside and they locked him in and lit it up.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
wasn't the most creepiest. The creepiest death thing that I heard that they would do, they would take somebody and they would basically put honey and cut them, and then they put them in a ship that had a bowl like this and then a flat top, and it'd be basically arms out and just basically covered with the ship, so they'd be floating. And basically they poke holes in the top of the ship, so you'd be out there and you'd be having all this honey and grime and blood, and you'd have all the insects and gnats, and it would basically eat you alive for a period of a week out at sea.
Oh, you know what's worse? You know what's just as bad as that, Steve? I think it was Romans used to take a bucket and put rats in the bucket, and then fasten that to your chest, and then light a candle up underneath the bucket. And as it slowly heats up, the rat starts to eat burrow a way out because it's too hot in there. Where do these people come up with this stuff? I mean,
fuck if I know. Creative shit, I'll give them that.
I don't know.
But
Well,
on a tangent right now.
The Romans, actually, the only records that we have of Roman crucifixion, they never took down people from the crucifixes, and really the crucifixes were more like straight poles. They were more like trees in which their hands were nailed up above their head instead of out to the side, as we know the lowercase t to be. But in Roman crucifixion, they would leave the person to die on the cross, and not just die, but to be devoured by scavengers, because at that time in early Judaism and in early Christianity, and even today still, burial is something that is very it's very
Reserved
sacred,
for the righteous.
it's a sacred right for the religious people to be buried, which is why in the Bible that they beg the centurions to let them bury Jesus in the tomb. But I was speaking of the tomb, that they can't agree on that either within the Gospels. This is actually one of the most common contradictions, which happens to be an actual contradiction, and it's actually 3 or 4 different contradictions, because we're talking about 3 or 4 different accounts, and then they can't agree on how many people were there. What they did after they went there, like I said in Luke, in Mark, the women ran away in fear. But in another, because the angel told them, the stone was rolled away. There's an angel there, and the angel said, "Hey, he's not here. Go and spread the good news. Go and tell everybody." And in Mark, it says the women just screamed. They're like, "Ah, fuck this! It's a ghost or whatever." And then that's just the end of Mark. So we don't know that they went and told who they needed to tell. In another one, the women never saw the angel. They weren't given this command. And even one of them, I believe this is the one where the three Marys walk up, and there's a Roman centurion there, a Roman guard standing at the stone, and they say that they hear a loud noise, and they look up, and there's two angels that, or I'm sorry, there's one angel that descended down to down to the ground and rolled the stone back, and then another angel came down, and they walked in. And then it says two walked in and three came out, and three of them came out. It says one of them's head touched the sky, and the other one's head was higher than the sky. And I don't know. It's really, really weird. I don't know if you guys have gotten to read the different accounts, but I highly encourage you to read them.
I got to tell you, I'm realizing more and more as I do this show and we talk about the Bible that whatever the hell I read growing up isn't what the Bible is anymore. I think it's like the Mandela effect, because I've heard stories and shit that I never heard of before, and I'm thinking, okay, I've read the Bible. I definitely read the New Testament, the whole thing. An Old Testament parts, most, but not all, right?
Right.
Most of us skip most of the parts, but I mean, I did a general reading of it in Sunday school, but I'm finding out shit in there that I just had no idea. I found out something that was in there, like this, the story of the general that prayed that if he would win and come home safely, that he would sacrifice the first thing he saw when he got home. And it happened to be his daughter, right? I'm sure you remember the whole story name. I had never in my life heard that story before.
Or something like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's because whenever you go to church and they're preaching to you, they're only giving you the Billboard Top 40. I mean, they're not. They're just giving you the greatest.
It wasn't in the Bible when I was growing up. No, there was a quantum change.
Rose. Thank you, Rose.
Mm-hmm.
With the tomb thing and that story, there was also I have a question in regards to an account of something in one book that is a pretty major event that's not mentioned in any of the other ones, and I think that's a striking or a very glaring red flag, I think, because and that's the first where the people they rose up out of the ground and greeted each other in the streets. The dead, the dead were raised, and they went around shaking hands in the street, like, "Hey, Tom, it's good to see you. I've been dead for however long." But there's only one book that mentions that, and if that's a huge event, like that's huge. Why is only one account talking about all the people that came up out of the ground and were saying what's up in the streets?
Well, I mean, a lot of the reasons that they add a lot of these things is to appeal to the people that they're writing to. I mean, a certain one writes them for the Gentiles, for the non-Jews, maybe for the Romans. One of them writes them for the Jews. One of them, and we know this by the way they write. For instance, the one that writes for the Gentiles, they make so many Judaic references, like references to the Judaic faith, to the Torah, and to their traditions and their practices. But not only do they mention them, but then they dumb them down and further explain these traditions and these rituals and these practices of basic Judaism that any Jew would know. So we know that he's not teaching them to Jews, but he's teaching somebody who's not a Jew about what Jews do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Someone brought up the example too of don't forget about the bears who eat the children for making fun of a bald guy. That is a hell of a story, by the way.
I didn't know about that.
But it's not a contradiction.
Definitely free. Now, No, it wasn't a contradiction, but I was not aware of that story. Nephilim Free actually taught me that story. Probably the
Yeah,
one thing I ever
it was
processed and learned from Nephilim
42
Free.
kids, I believe, called him Baldy, and so he called he prayed to God, and God called two female bears, two mother bears down on the children, and they devoured all of them, all 42 of them.
Savage as fuck. Savage as
What were
fuck.
what was a fat bald man doing in a group of 42 kids?
Yeah, but how petty are you if you're gonna kill 42 children for calling someone bald? Like you want to worship that dude for eternity, really? I mean, you want to worship that guy for forever?
I mean, it's probably been going on every day. He's just walking there, he's walking the stage, and he sees them in the distance. Before they're within earshot, because there's 42 of them, right? So you can see them for a fucking mile away. It's like there's a big swarm of them, and he just sees this zombie horde of taunting children, and all he thinks is, Let that little motherfucker call me Baldy. Let him call me Baldy. He said, God, he calls me Baldy. You know what to do. And then he just walks up, and they're like, hey, Baldy. And he was like, get him, God. And all of a sudden these two bears come out, and he goes, oh, shit, God, that's a little far.
They got their comeuppance, didn't they?
You think they fist bumped? Like the bears? I got you, dog. Got you, dog.
Right.
That's crazy.
I just wonder how the kids are so goddamn slow. You figure the bear's going to be taking out one or two kids. A couple of them going to get away, right? Even motherfuckers start running. But nope. They'll sticking around going, okay, I'll wait to be next.
Jeez.
Yeah, right. Right. I wonder if the bears blessed their food before they ate it, being as they were that they could communicate with God and all.
You know it. I mean, bears are very respectful. Remember, it's a bear that prevents forest fires in this country. So I mean, they do have their head on straight.
No,
but apparently...
no. The bear says only you can prevent forest fires.
But
so the bear is just a condescending asshole who doesn't want to do any work on his own.
Oh, listen, we just talked about what bears can do to people. All right, you have a nice head of hair. All right, I'd hate to see what a bear can do to that. So
come on with it, Baldy.
Steve, he just called you Baldy.
Well, I don't have the empowerment to have two female bears come down and eat him, but I actually like the guy, so I mean, I don't want him dead.
Bears today are a different thing now. If I'm not even going to make that joke. Just bears today means something completely different. So
you just did make the joke, Kyle.
I know. Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes left in the hour and a half, and we haven't got to any of your slides. Do you want to show?
We can throw up whatever. I don't remember what all I sent, but
well, there's the Atheist Republic. Nice logo. All right, Dave, let's switch to the next one. Let's see what we've got, and then the next one.
Yeah, so this is a map of cross references in the Bible. There are hundreds of thousands of cross references, and each one of those they connect back and forth. Each one of the colors means something else. I can't remember the guy's name who was going to do this. I was going to give him credit for this, but somebody actually spent the time to map this out. This isn't all of them. I found out after I had sent this to you that there's actually a map that's more comprehensive than this one, even that's been done more recently. But that just shows you how many verses in the Bible refer to each other. So they've obviously read each other's work.
That's amazing. So each one of those lines correlates to a time where one verse is referencing the other.
Right, contradictory or not, just as long as they parallel or mention a person or mention an event.
Right. So what this means actually is that the Bible is okay with homosexuality, because that's obviously a rainbow. So that's what we can take away. All of these verses together is God saying that, go ahead, people, be gay. Do your thing. Nice.
I mean, Jesus maybe he wasn't saying amen. Maybe he was saying men.
I like that. That's good. And that this brings us full circle, because that's a contradiction.
I can't take credit for that. I'm pretty sure I saw the meme somewhere.
this brings us full circle, because that in itself is a contradiction compared to the other verses in the Bible. So that brings the conversation back full circle. He's okay with it, but he has to, he's on the down low about it. Let's put it that way. I think that's the takeaway here. All right, Dave?
Well, I mean, then there's a translation thing. He didn't actually say amen, Oh yeah, look at this contradiction right here. This is